One. Wow. Woo, look at that. Episode 383 of Haejl the Show podcast has started. Look at that. And we're on with Agam Darshi, the actress, filmmaker. She's been in many, popular great movies, and she's also been in a lot of critically acclaimed great movies too. Great movies all around. How about that? Welcome to the show, Agam. Do you want
Thanks
to tell
for
us
having me.
a little bit more about yourself and where you're from?
Yeah, I was born in England. I was born in Birmingham. And then when I was 3, my family and we moved to Canada. And so we lived in all over, like Montreal and Ottawa, Calgary, Vancouver. And I have a degree in visual arts and photography from the University of Calgary. And I minored in theater just because I liked it, but I didn't think I would actually make a living out of it. And then I had a teacher that encouraged me to try to get an agent. And I thought, well, yeah, maybe it'd be fun just to get some money on the side and like do commercials or something. And then I ended up booking my very first job. And then which was a recurring role on a TV series. And I was hooked after that. And then it became my work. I started working quite consistently. And that was, I don't know, I think it was like 17 or 18 years ago.
Wow.
And
yeah.
And then during that time, moved to LA. That's where I am now. And I've also I'm a writer and a director and a filmmaker as well.
Yeah. How cool is that? I mean, let's get right into, a fun topic. Let's just start off. We're all actors here, pretty much. On Sunday, I was hanging out with my friends. We were watching the Oscars. It was my birthday actually on Sunday, and we were watching this Oscars event. And then all of a sudden, we just see, I'm going to talk about the big moment where Will Smith gets up and slaps Chris Rock, pretty much. And we thought it was like staged. We thought it was just part of the bit because I was like, that's too funny. But it wasn't a bit, it turns out, and it was real. I don't know. You've been an actor, a professional actor for some time. So what do you think about, that situation?
That was so weird. Wasn't that weird?
It was very surreal. So it feels like something out of a movie. Yeah, like a Will Smith movie.
It works perfectly for the world that we live in right now, which is like COVID, and like I'm sure aliens are going to come tomorrow. Like, this is where we're at. And so of course Will Smith is gonna hit Chris Rock. I also thought it was staged. I wasn't watching the Oscars, but I just kind of saw on social media like something happened and I'm like, what's going on? And then I Googled it and I saw I think Will Smith overreacted. I don't think what he did was right. And I think his speech was like questionable. That being said, I kind of feel, I'm sure you're going to get backlash for this, but I kind of feel bad for him because he made a really bad judgment call. Like it was just a stupid thing at a stupid moment in front of a billion people. And he went off the deep end. And who knows, who knows what happened to him that day? Like, what happened with his wife? Everybody knows his business and people talk, like the pressure of all of that. It doesn't make an excuse. You shouldn't resort to violence, but it's just kind of like, you just don't know these people are flawed. They're people. Right. The difference is that we're all watching, and so you can't be perfect all the time. And the worst part about it is that he did it on a day where, he won an award. I'm sure he probably just wanted to crawl into a hole after that. And then he had to win. And he's like, and he has to show up and he has to be like, yeah, I won. And this is great. I'm going to go to the party after. Man, like I would have been so embarrassed. I would have just wanted to go home and sleep. I don't know. I think people are debating it and you're hearing all these people like having such strong opinions. It's like, you show me a time when you haven't been like completely perfect, or a stand-up citizen. Like people make mistakes and it was a shitty thing to do. I don't think it means anything about anything. And Chris Rock, I like him. I like the way he sort of like dealt with it all. I think really he's funny. Yeah, he's funny. He didn't press charges. Like he was just like, whoa, buddy. But
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. Like I don't think it's like, yeah.
I will say I agree with what you're saying that it was in the spur of the moment thing, but he's also Will Smith. He's very like a celebrated guy. People look up to him, and that moment was like a violent moment. And me and Saeed coming from the Middle East, we're from Lebanon originally. We've seen a lot of that like machismo type guy. They'll come up and slap you in the face for saying something, but that
I've had my own run-ins as well.
But yeah, it's not, it's like it's not like we want to be far away from that, we want to be above that pretty much. And
no,
I understand. Yeah, like
right.
I agree. Like he represents something, and he did that to himself. He cultivated an image that is like, I am better than everyone in the sense that I am so much more positive, so much more like grounded, and so I get it. And he messed it up. I guess the way I see it, maybe because I'm in this industry, is people are so flawed. Like we're just human at the end of the day, and it was just a really bad choice, but it was just a choice,
Yeah, I think the issue is like he portrayed a very, like throughout his career, he's always portrayed an image of like self-discipline that really, everyone would look, like you guys were saying, people would look up to. And in that moment, he broke down, and he just was not in control anymore. He just let it all go. And I feel like, especially with the concept of being disciplined in your like have a disciplined mentality, this allows you to have that success. And then in that moment, he just like threw it all away, and that's why people are just like hating on him so much.
Yeah, I think the weird part for me is when he's been getting like these standing ovations at this Vanity Fair party, and like I think people are kind of just sheep, right? Like it's just no one's gonna stand up to him and say, hey, what you did was like stupid. They're gonna be like, Will Smith is still the king, and it's and so he's getting mixed responses. He's starting to think, well, what I did was fine and people love me for it, but not realizing, maybe not putting out I don't know, has he put out a public apology? I don't think so.
Yeah, he did.
I think he did. Yeah.
Okay. But I guess I just think that like I don't watch the Oscars.
You've been to some award shows too, right? So I mean, you must have been involved in award shows. I can believe that.
Please keep inviting me, guys. Please keep inviting me.
I mean, look, as an actor, you put in so much time and effort. Like our lifestyles were so weird in that a lot of things take the back seat just so that you can like live out this dream and work really hard doing the thing that you love doing. But like, and so it is nice to be celebrated, but I guess it's also so political, so it's not really being celebrated, right? Like it's just it's not really like like the truth of what is valued. It's just what's a popularity contest. So it is kind of dumb. It's fun to show up and like have a good time and look good, but it's stupid.
So you don't think that maybe these award shows are just like for people to seek their own personal validation from their peers?
I do think it's that. Yeah, like we do want to be validated from our peers, and we want to be it is that.
I will say, like, I'm happy that like Coda won. I think one of the cool thing about these award shows is that it does get to highlight films that most people have never heard of or talked about, and and like show diverse stories and different kinds of stories. And my take on the Oscars is that I think for some reason, I don't know why this is the culture, but actors are very like put on a pedestal, but all the other filmmakers that come into it, the filmmakers, the editors, the camera people, there's a whole whole group of people that work in films, but they don't get the same kind of spotlight as actors do. And so I want to ask you, Agam, you've worked in many different, been an actor and you've been a filmmaker. What do you like more?
I mean, I like it all. I love acting. Acting on stage in theater is it feels different than acting in a film, because you're a bigger part of it, and so you feel more like a partner. Whereas film, you can, like, you're only like a little cog in a whole wheel. But I love having an idea and just seeing it through. So like writing something and then directing it, they're all just really special. I think writing is probably the hardest, but I think it's also the most satisfying.
Wow. So so that you're saying that, you know, when you got a chance to write and direct and act in your own movie, that must have been a very satisfying moment for you, right? Because you're
it was very satisfying.
The wheel. Right.
Yeah, it was very, very satisfying. But it was, I don't know if I will act in something that I write and direct again. I'm really excited and happy that I got that opportunity, but I don't know if I would do it again.
You want to tell us why? I don't know, from your experience.
Well, it was just so all consuming, and I like having that relationship with the director and to collaborate with the director. In this particular case for Donkey Head, I didn't really have, it was kind of like I didn't have a choice. Like I wasn't planning on directing it, and then it just sort of happened. And so the reason why it happened was because, so I wrote it so that I could act in, and then I was looking for a director, and I approached somebody that I had worked with before who was really funny and understands comedy and understands drama, very, very talented. And he read the script, and I was like, so what do you think? And he's like, oh, I love it. And I'm like, great, do you want to direct it? And he's a white man. And he said, no, it's not my script. It's not my film to make. It's yours. You should do it. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I want to act. And he's like, well, you can do both, and I can help you. So I started to like think about that. And then I started to think about I'm like, okay, so if I can't approach white men to direct my script, which is a huge population of people that I know, I'm like, who do I approach? And so then I'm like, well, I don't feel like it's right for me to approach a white woman either. Like it should be a diverse person. And then I started to look at who I knew, and that population of diverse women, BIPOC filmmakers, like is tiny. And you know, there's a handful that have done incredibly well, that I have approached, and you know, but they were busy. And so it left with a lot of up and coming filmmakers who might have been great, but they didn't have the same amount of time on set that I did throughout my career. So I was kind of in this weird place where I'm like, do I hand over the script that I spent so long on to somebody who just didn't have as much experience, or do I just direct it myself? And so I directed it myself.
Wow. Honestly, I wouldn't have thought that, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a great initiative to just like overtake this whole project by yourself. And I feel like, especially for the POC community, it's starting to grow, and like this is probably just like the start. And this is the step that you took is like a step that should be taken by many other people in the same field, and because that's how the community grows. That's how you get more directors from the POC community, and like you create your own, like that's how you have more of them. And you know, less like a more diverse community to talk to, instead of just going to resort to white men. That's
I mean, I understand also. I completely agree. I mean, we need more people, more people of color behind the scenes creating their own content. I guess I also hear it from, you know, from BIPOC actors. It's like, why can't I just be an actor like the white people? Like, why can't I just get those like opportunities? And it's like, I know, but we're not there. Like in society, we're just not there. Yeah. We're still in the movement. We still need to create that change and shift that balance. And it's happening. I went into a supermarket the other day, and I remember when I was younger and I used to look at magazine covers, literally everyone was blonde, blue-eyed, white skin. And now that's completely shifted. And I was like, holy, like if I was a little girl growing up at this time, that's very empowering.
Yeah, I agree to that. And I just want to say about, the film you made is really cool. And and it's like, and I couldn't see how someone else could have made it, because it just seems very personable to you, and like the story of the siblings and dad, and being stuck together. It just feels like it's something that came out from you specifically, right? And it did because you wrote it.
Yeah, it's very personal.
Yeah, it feels very personal. Do you want to tell us, like, how close was that movie to, I don't know, like, what made you think of that movie to write that to begin with?
Yeah. So I started writing a long time ago, and it was partly I just wanted to write a film about family, about 4 siblings, and what happens when their parents have passed away, what happens to them and the interactions. And it was partly because I really love films by filmmakers like Woody Allen and Noah Baumbach, and like just witty banter and just like very simple films like that. And so it was my attempt at making something like this. But then over time, it became more personal. And I ended up submitting it to a screenwriters lab at Whistler Film Festival in 2018. And then that's really kind of when it became like much deeper. And I had lived with my dad and my mom when my dad was going through chemo a number of years ago. And that experience was very profound. My dad, fortunately, he got through the other side, and he got through remission, which was really great. But but it was just like, cancer's so ugly, and it's just it's a hard disease to live with, and it's hard to take care of somebody who's going through that, and I saw my mom like taking care of him, and I took care of him, and so I think I just used that experience and brought it into this film, and that became an anchor, and then everything else, a lot of the other stuff was fictional, but yeah, that was kind of the thing that sort of kept me, like the thread that kept it very personal for me.
And it seems like you've been working on this for a while, right? If in 2018 it got into the lab. So you must, I don't know how long you've been writing this for. Yeah,
it's too long. I don't recommend that. Yeah, I wrote it like, oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. Like 10 years ago, I started writing it, but off and on. And then like throughout that time, I had children and blah, blah, blah. And, so things just got really busy. And I always write a few things at the same time. And so like other projects take more priority. And yeah. So hopefully the next one won't be quite so long.
Hey, you made it. It's pretty cool that you got to make a cool movie, and I would say it was like, it's interesting, and I like how, there was some commentary, on like family, but also on, it seemed like specifically like Pakistani family, if I'm not mistaken, and like traditions, and was it for you a little more controversial to talk about this topic? Did it make you feel a little uncomfortable? Because I just imagine me and Saeed were Lebanese, so if I were to make a film about the Lebanese community and kind of, expose them in that kind of way, I feel like it would be a little more controversial. So,
yeah, there'll be much less sand in the movie. A lot of people just keep thinking, Lebanon is another sand Arab country, and I'm like, we have much more trees than you guys. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable. Like it I wanted to just be as honest as possible, right? And so what I exposed in a lot of ways was nothing that isn't happening. But it's just that nobody ever shows that from a Sikh Punjabi lens, and the Sikh Punjabi like culture never gets to see themselves, like the people never get to see themselves in that way. And so, yeah, it was uncomfortable for me to sit in a theater and watch that film with people from that culture, it's hard enough to watch a film that you make with anybody, but particularly with them, because I just sense that like it's I mean, the culture itself is very traditional, and when they see the character of Mona with this man in bed and stuff, it's very like intimate, and or there's a lot of bums in the film.
Yes, so it's
like, but I think the one moment that really bugged people, and not everybody, like I got a lot of messages from people that were really just that loved the film and were so thrilled to be able to see themselves in a film like this and to see it so honestly. But the one moment that some people took issue with was the fact that I showed the picture of Guru Nanak, which is one of the 10 gurus that is part of the Sikh faith, on the wall. This is so the protagonist, Mona, she picks up a $20 bill that she finds on the floor and she stuffs it in her pocket. So she's kind of stealing from somebody. And then I focus on this picture that's on the wall of one of the gurus. And then the next scene is the same protagonist in bed with this man. So people were they were like, that's pretty like ballsy of you. But I did it on purpose. It was because of this idea that, we have these relics, we have these photographs and these paintings in our house, and yet we do all kinds of things, and not just the Sikh Punjabi community, but all communities. There's domestic abuse, there's alcoholism. Those are things that are very prevalent in the Sikh Punjabi community, and yet it's happening while people are going to the Sikh temple, while they're talking about God. Like it's very hypocritical. And again, not everybody, but this is like, you can't deny that these are problems that are in the Sikh Punjabi faith. So I wanted to make a point that like these things happen and we have these like pictures in our house, but it doesn't make us any holier.
No, I can definitely agree with you on that point, because we've definitely seen exampmples of that.
Hypocrisy.
In the Arab community, it's very prevalent.
I would agree.
I remember when I was younger, when I used to go to the mosque to pray. That was when I used to slightly believe something. My friend would just like, talk about like the party after, or something like that, while we're in the mosque or something like that. It's like, where's the party after? Or like someone who,
that's funny.
Yeah, like there's always people who also like, they pray 5 times a day and everything, but then at night, they're just like, they're going out drinking and they're smoking up and they're doing a lot of things. And when you ask them about it, they always will either deny it or try to find an excuse to say like, this, it's questionable, it's not necessarily directly talked about in the faith, or like stuff like that. They try to be very vague about the way it's talked about in religion, so that they can get away with it.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that like I think religion can be a really beautiful thing. Like at the root of it, like all religions, I've been in mosques and I've been in like, obviously churches and Sikh temples and mandirs and all of that. And I find them very like lovely places. But the problem is that the people around, we turn them, we there's so much shame in culture, especially Eastern cultures. I mean, I can speak from like a Sikh Punjabi perspective. If you don't do things according to the way people want you to do it, like there's so much shame. And so as a result, people just lie about it, or they just like, we just don't give them the freedom to explore. And I think we're human beings and we're supposed to explore, and we're supposed to make mistakes, and we're supposed to like, if you want to smoke, like learn, like fine, smoke, or if you want to drink, but giving them the opportunity to do that in a place that's not so judgmental, so that if they choose later, like, oh, this actually isn't for me, they can come back. But it's so rigid the way we structure these cultures and these rules and obligations.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. Like giving the freedom and liberty to people to make their own choice is definitely a necessity in their lives. And then but then I also like play devil's advocate and like contemplate, is this just like maybe the effect of Western culture or like Western
I
tradition?
understand. Yeah.
You know, there's always that conflict. You know, it's like I'm definitely, I would say, more Westernized than most of the people in my family in Lebanon. But is it because I actually want to live this way, or is it because this is how in the schools that I went to, and like this is the environment that
You've
I was raised in?
indoctrinated.
Yeah.
You're
So
indoctrinated.
it could be like that, but at the same time, I don't know.
That's a really interesting point of view, and I do agree. Like, yeah, I do agree. But I think the thing is in the West is that we don't have community, right? We're so individualized, so we just live for ourselves. Whereas like when you do go to the East, at least there's a community there in a village where you have someone, like you have a role in that. And I think maybe that's what makes it a little easier to sort of adhere to, you know, some of the way things are. But I guess what I'm coming from is just the shame part of it. Like when you're not living according to the way the society and the culture want you to live, there is so much shame brought onto the person and the individual. And I don't think that does anyone any good. And that's why I don't know. Maybe.
It's tricky because like, you know, like about community, like the Western society doesn't have communities, but in Eastern societies, we do have communities. But a lot of the time the communities are fighting within each other. And there's also a lot of like trouble that, you know, and so yeah, it's really hard to think about. It's very controversial, like where to lie in, you know, in between. And I wanted to ask you, Agam, about another, you know, might be a little controversial from your part of Funny Boy. My bad.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say, you know, your role in that is, you know, so great. You really like shine through, and it was like
thank you.
like I'll say like a very like delicate and intimate role, and to see you working, you know, across from like a kid, but also like I felt like that, you know, the role really fit perfectly for you. And I'm curious, you know, what like were there any controversies that happened with that film, because that one has, you know, it talks about the queer community, which is, you know, from my understanding, was an even more sensitive topic still.
As you can see, Ali is the charmer in between us. I'm just here.
It's a good combination. It's a
good comeback up, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if you're aware of, so the film, it's one of my favorite films I've ever worked on, and I loved working with Deepa Mehta. She's become like such a mentor and a friend throughout the process. But the film itself, it was really sad because when the film came out, there was a lot of controversy because there were some people that were angry about the fact that they felt that Deepa didn't. The film is about a Tamil Christian family, and specifically this Tamil Christian boy. And it's his coming of age story as he grows up. So the first part of the film is when he's like 10, and the second part of the film is when he's like 16 or 17. And growing up gay in Sri Lanka, while the backdrop of that is you know, the civil war that goes on, and the fighting between the Sinhalese and the Tamils. And people were upset about the fact that the main cast, so the little boy and his family, were not Tamil. We were from all over the place. A few of them were Sinhalese. One of them, the woman Nimi, who plays the little boy's mother, she's half Tamil and half Sinhalese, but apparently that's not good enough. I'm Punjabi, somebody else was Pakistani. And we came together to make this film, and we were so proud of this film. And this film was based on a book that had been around for like 29 years. And Deepa decided that she wanted to make it into a film and did an incredible job. And so because of so much anger towards the fact that there wasn't like a pure Tamil person in any of these roles, some people, and it was a small majority a small minority with a loud voice got really, really angry. They took to social media. They made like a huge like thing about it. And the film unfortunately just didn't get the, like, it didn't get recognized. Like it was really clouded by this like ugly sort of anger that people had. Because I would say it's probably one of her best works. And it's kind of gross what can happen on social media these days and the whole cancel culture. And that is kind of what happened. Like the film got canceled from a lot of things because of it.
Yeah, cancel culture is definitely not something very helpful these days, with especially for creatives and people who just want to, share their opinion in an either through an artistic manner or through any manner in any way, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, when I started listening, I understood why some people were upset about it. I also want to say that there were some Tamils who watched it and they were so happy that this film was made. But I understood why there were some that didn't appreciate it. But I think the problem is that there's no room for dialogue. We're living in a day where it's just like online bullying, and it's just like throwing people under the bus, and like no one wants to listen. And so you have this grievance and you're making a huge like stink about it, but nobody's actually like trying to take a moment to have a conversation. I mean, I should also say that the lead, Brendan Ingram, who played RG when he's older, is actually gay in real life. And so it's just kind of this funny thing with casting these days. People think that you have to cast perfectly. And, if you're from that community, which obviously like Deepa tried her best to do that. But because of like homosexuality is still illegal in Sri Lanka. So there are a lot of people who didn't want to be a part of the film, even when she was doing these open calls. And at the end of the day, like you have to find good actors who can really just exude the humanity of the character. It's not necessarily about whether or not they check the box of their heritage. Like it's not, that's not how casting works, that's not how art works. So it's a bit frustrating the way things have the tendency to just want to get it perfect, because we forget the fact that these are three-dimensional characters. They're more than just their ethnic background.
Right. I mean, I will say that it might have been clouded at the time with all the controversy and stuff, but what really matters for a film is if it lives on, right? And the film's on Netflix. I got to watch it. A bunch of people get to watch it, and it's such like a unique point of view. And I wouldn't have learned about the Tamil versus Sinhalese civil war. I wouldn't have learned about all this cultural story or about the homosexual, the queer community there, because there aren't stories like that. I mean, and the one movie about it, of course, is going to get some controversy because it's the only one, wasn't scared of taking like a side, of like sending a message. And so I'm sure that as time goes on, people look favorably upon that movie. And,
I hope so. Yeah. Thank you. And thanks for watching it. I'm always kind of amazed when people find these little films on like a big portal like Netflix, So
it's nice. It's interesting. You learn something a little bit. I watch a Marvel movie. I learned zero. You know what I mean? No.
What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie, and I love a bunch of movies. What would I say? I love, like I'd say the Le 400 coups, 400 blows, Francois Truffaut movie, old French New Wave movie. Also love Paul Thomas Anderson, Punch Drunk Love. I love this movie called Battle Royale. It's like a Korean, the Battle Royale movie. Yeah, it's like Hunger Games before Hunger Games. It's Japanese actually.
Oh.
And, it's really cool. You should try to find it. And I could keep going. I love movies pretty much.
What about you, Saeed?
I'm not as much as a movie buff as Ali, but the one that, like the most, for some reason, the most emotional movie that I've watched for me was this is gonna be just like cringy as fuck, but it's Toy Story 3, because like because
That's a great
I
movie.
grew up, yeah, because like I grew up with a Woody, you know, like I had my own Woody as well. Like I just loved
Me
it as
too.
much.
I love
But
Aw.
like, but a more recent movie that I watched that I do really like is Boiling Point. It recently came out on
Point.
yeah, on Netflix UK. I don't know if it's in the US, but it's basically about, it's like a so you know the movie 1917 where there's just like one camera
Right.
following the yeah, it's basically the same thing, but it's about a chef that works in his kitchen the night before Christmas. And the reason why I liked it is because like I've worked as a waiter before, and seeing the behind the scenes, I was like, yeah, that shit definitely happens in the kitchen of any
Yeah.
restaurant. So it was an interesting it's an interesting movie for people to see, because like you get some perspective on how the kitchen life is like in restaurants.
That's really interesting.
What about you, Agam?
Yeah,
You want to
Oh,
tell us your
gee.
phones?
I
Yeah.
shouldn't have asked.
Yeah,
You brought it
exactly.
on yourself, yeah.
You know, do you know like Before Sunset, Before Sunrise? That
Yeah, I
whole
love those
trilogy?
movies.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really love those, and they all came out kind of at the same time that I was the same age, like roughly, like a little younger than the main characters. But before Sunrise, like I was a teenager, and so I was just like, wow, this is so like romantic. And then 10 years later, I had been with my husband, and you start to see like it's such a beautiful evolution of people and their own, how life does things to people, and how they become sometimes a little more jaded over time, and a little more tired, and this thing that felt so special for them at the very, very beginning can be taken for granted, and yet they've developed so much love for each other. It's such a great trilogy.
Yeah, it felt like a very classical, traditional type of love, like back in something that you'd have seen maybe back in the 1920s or 30s, because like you don't have like technology to properly communicate or anything like that, just letters. And they kept it going even in modern time, and for some reason it also hit me as well.
Love those movies. Let's talk a little bit about I just want to know, before we move on from Funny Boy, what was it like working with a young boy? For like many of the main scenes you were in, it was just you and him. So what was that like for you? They always say working with kids is hard. So you want to tell us a bit about it?
He was great. He was a real pro, and he wasn't scared. But also very like, sometimes you work with kids, and like they're kids, and I worked with kids before, and like I remember this one thing I had to do, and there was this child in it, and she was just really spoiled, and like I didn't like her. He wasn't like that. He was like so lovely and like very wise for such a young child, and there was a lot of pressure on him, because this is a big role, and he did such an incredible job, and he was just very level-headed. And I would talk to his mom about it, and his mom was like saying that she's like, I'm really nervous, but like he's totally fine, And so it was really like, I felt very it felt really good. And also at that time I'd already I have twin boys as well, and they were already born. And so when I went into this role, I felt like, there's just something about being a mother that really lent itself to this particular role, and just wanting to connect with this young child. It felt very like honest to where I was in my own life.
Oh, yeah. How lovely. I will say.
Yeah. Something I want to mention, like off topic though, and is basic. We were digging through your history of the movies, the roles that you've acted in, and they've always ended up with you somehow dying in a weird way. I mean, obviously there's the Snakes on the Plane, as like and 2012, and how was working with
Supernatural, I think I got hung I think there was this one film I did where I was scalded alive in the shower.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was a horror film.
It's so easy to like just, you know, kill the non-whites. That's I feel like that.
Yeah, that was a huge part of my my bread and butter for like a good half of my career.
Did you feel like it took an effect on your like a toll on you?
What part? Dying?
No. No, I meant like if like you were just getting the roles that where they just, you know, give you a part where you just die. Like, did you feel like this was a bit annoying? Maybe this is inconvenient for you as an actress?
I feel like compared to some of my other peers who are also South Asian or people of color, I feel like I've been able to sort of navigate my career in a pretty, like, I've been able to get roles that have been pretty great. I think the frustration for me has been more the fact that even though I've made a living as an actor, I know people I know most white people who are actors have had an opportunity to be leads in a film or a TV show, you know, even if short film, even like whatever it is, a play. And that was something that I had never had before, even though I had this huge resume and I'd worked, you know, for a long time, because they just don't make leads that look like me or you, you know, like it's the people, they're just, it's always you're always playing the supporting role that sort of caters to the white narrative. And so that was a huge reason why I made Donkey Head, was because I wanted to see what it was like to lead a film. And so that's the toll that it takes, is like just not being seen, or just being seen as like sometimes just that quota. Like I remember, and I, you know, sometimes it is stupid. Like you're on set. I remember one time I had a recurring role in this thing, and you know, and playing like the Indian woman with the sari, or the, you know, and my husband was Sikh and they gave him a turban, but they didn't give him a beard. And within the Sikh community, you always, like, if you're going to wear a turban, you have to, it's about growing your hair. And so you're always wearing a beard. And I remember telling the producers, I'm like, you should probably, like, he should have a beard. Nobody cared, you know? And so it's just like, it's really, that part does get frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's cool that you got to be in a bunch of iconic films, and, you know, 2012 and Snakes on a Plane. And how cool is that? And you know, we kind of
hitting that line for the first time, you know, it's like, get these, like, I'm sick and tired of these motherfucking snakes on the motherfucking plane. Like,
yeah, nobody thought that film was going to do anything, and then it became this weird cult classic.
Wow, right? And yeah, we are kind of running out of time, you know. But what's next for you, Agam? Are you working on another film or acting, or what's
I'm just writing. I'm writing a lot. I have a few projects that I'm developing, and I'm going back to The Flash. Actually, I'm on a TV show called The Flash. It's on CW.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, I have a pretty cool character. Her name is Mona, but in her other side of her life, she's the Queen of Diamonds. So she's part of the Royal Flush Gang. And so she's a bad guy. And so, yeah, going to be heading back to Vancouver to do that.
How cool.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, definitely. That sounds like a very... Okay, like, obviously you're going to be a villain, but like... What can we do? Is like they that's how we get represented in like the white narrative, right?
She's a cool villain though, because she has a really crazy telepathic powers, so she can like read everybody's minds, and then she steals from them.
Pretty cool. All right. Well, thanks, Agam, a lot for coming on the show. How cool is it that your movie's out on Netflix? You can watch it. Anyone can watch it. And thanks for coming on the show. It's been another.
Thanks so much for having me. Really nice chatting.
It's been another episode of Age of the Show, the most international podcast. Thank you, Agam, for coming on the show. Saeed, see you later. Me, okay, adios. Goodbye.